Hello, buddy. My name is Jacob, and welcome to the Epileptic Gamer podcast. This is an interesting episode because there is not a lot of headlines that are positive about this beta. And I'm going to tell you why. Concord, for those of you that do not know, is essentially, people want to call it a carbon copy of Overwatch. It's not that. That's what they want you to think. And if you're listening to this episode, you're probably wondering, well, all the news sites are saying the game is bad. That's obviously it's bad, right? Wrong. If you were to play the game, like I actually got a chance to play some of it, not a lot, but I got a few hours in, got a chance to play as most of the heroes, I will personally tell you that the game is a lot of fun. Is it for everybody? Probably not. And that's alright. You're allowed to not like things. It's what makes us human. But here's what they don't want you to think. They don't want you to think that this game is good. They want you to think about the negatives. That's what gets people clicks. That's what gets sites views, that's how they get revenue, and that's what generates publicity. They don't focus on the positives anymore. And that's just human nature. It's always going to come down to, remember that one thing that did poorly? Or remember the one thing that, I don't know, let's take an example. You remember how it bombed? Let's think of a perfect example. Mad Max Furiosa. Remember how that movie bombed? No one talks about how, I didn't get a chance to see it. I know it flopped. But no one talks about how there are decent parts of the movie. No. No one talks about that. What they do talk about is how it flopped. The negatives. Here's what people don't want you to think. They don't want you to think that this is going to be a good game. Because when I played the beta, I can tell you that this has potential. The game lets you play in the beta as all the heroes. And that is a good thing. Because people got to try them all out. And I loved all the heroes. There were some heroes that I'd like more than others. And that's fine. You have support, backup, etc. It's the usual thing that Overwatch has. And that's why people are comparing it to Overwatch. But shit's been like that for ages. Apex did it before Overwatch. I mean, it's the circle of life in video games. You can't be original anymore. I mean, if you were, there will be 25 Battle Royale games that come and go. That's just the way it is. If you could be original, well, I wouldn't be here talking about this. So here's what we're going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about the positives of the game. The positive is this. It's something new. Something that people get to talk about. Any publicity is good publicity. That's what people should talk about. They shouldn't be talking about the negatives. That's not right. And if you want to talk about numbers, 2,300 people played it on Steam. That was its peak. Granted, that's not a lot. But when you think about it, I want you to think about it in this type of way. 2,300 people played the open beta with no marketing. That's pretty impressive. And people are comparing it to Overwatch, which is not fair in the slightest, because Overwatch and Overwatch 2 had a shitload of marketing behind it. Suicide Squad Open Beta had a shitload of marketing behind it because it was coming from a big studio. You cannot compare a big studio to a new studio. That is not fair in the slightest. Here's what people don't want you to think about this game. They don't want you to look at it like it's a brand new game. They want you to think it's a carbon copy of every other game known to man, and that isn't fair. And the harsh reality of it is, this game has potential. It's the other fact that you're willing to give it a chance. Do I think it's worth the $40? Maybe. It's a beta. And what's the definition of a beta? You get to try it out. I mean, call me crazy, but that's what happens when they're early builds. Nothing is set in stone. Things are gonna change. I mean, it's a simple concept, people. It's not that hard to understand. Like, if you could... What I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I can't. So, it's that. It's not fair to compare a game that's a first-person shooter that's coming out now from a studio that's never been heard of to compare it to Call of Duty. Can you tell me how that's fair? It's not. There's a quote, there's a freaking article that says it's dead on arrival. What are people going to think when they see that? That's going to hurt the game sales. It's not fair. It's not. And I'm not saying this as someone that's defending the game. Do I think it has its flaws? Absolutely. So does every other game. So does Overwatch 2. Marvel Rivals, which is going to be coming up very soon, that's going to have its flaws. Overwatch 2 has its flaws. Everything has flaws. And the fact that we are going to criticize Concord, which is, yes, a first-person shooter, but it's coming out of a brand new studio? Come on. That's not right. Here's the people that want you to think, and I say it all the time, make it make sense. How is it fair to compare somebody's work, which is a AAA studio game, to someone's work, which granted, yes, it's still a AAA studio game, but it's not a well-established studio. This is the first game, from what I can tell. I haven't done much research into them, but when it's got announced, people dismissed it. That's not fair. You gotta look into this stuff. And when you're looking at it, looking out, it looks like it's an Overwatch copy, and I can see why you'd want to think that. In reality, it's not. It's its own entity. And that's what you gotta look at in the long-term scale. The long-term scale is that Concord could come out of left field, just like Cyberpunk could come out of left field. It's like No Man's Sky could come out of left field and become a powerhouse. No Man's Sky launched in a brutal way that had every promise lied. It was not there. Now it is one of the best games out there and has probably the best redemption story known to man. Same thing with Cyberpunk 2077. Who's to say Concord can't go down that same route? Nobody's going to talk about that because they don't want to have Concord in the same breath as Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky. God forbid they get mentioned in this same damn sentence. God forbid that people give a new game a chance. No, that's not fair, because why would we want to try something new when we have something that we already like? I get it. It's $40, and it's essentially Overwatch. I can see where people are making the comparisons, but you gotta look at it from this standpoint. If you were to play the open beta, you were to see the differences. There were huge differences. And the fact that you are not giving it a chance is not fair. People don't want you to think that this game is going to be good. Because this game has potential to be great. I have an episode all about this. This game could surprise you. And when I played the beta, it surprised me. Yes, we could only access certain game modes, but like I said, it's a beta. I'm curious to see what the game modes will be when they come out. There's lots of videos out there that say Concord isn't worth your time. I could just type in Concord open beta, and it will, first thing is IGN and Game Rant and so much more saying it is dead on arrival. Why? Why are you saying that when it's just a beta? It's a little premature to say it's dead on arrival. It had little marketing. There was nothing on Steam about the game. What did you expect? 100,000 people to play the game? No. That's not fair. That's not fair in the slightest. 2,000 people is pretty damn good to think of a new game from a very decent studio, and they're putting out an open beta saying, here's what we're working on, give us your feedback. That's pretty damn good in my opinion. And if you don't like it, then I don't know what to tell you. You are just missing out on what, in my opinion, could be a sleeper when it comes to multiplayer games. And if you want to wait for it to be on sale, which is I can almost guarantee you what people are going to do, you wait for it to be on sale. That's your decision. But I think this game is going to be a sleeper pick for not best community, I shouldn't have said that, for a decent redemption arc, I guess you could say. I think it's going to be a sleeper pick for multiple awards. And do I think they're going to get awards off the bat? No. You can't think that. That's not fair. But I think down the line, absolutely. From what I played, it was a lot of fun. And I think it almost gave me Destiny 2 vibes with the PvP. It felt like it didn't. It's not like that. It didn't have an identity. It had its own identity. And the best thing is you make your own identity. They even said it themselves. Every week is a different storyline. Name one game that does that. I can't. That's what people are not focusing on. They're focusing on the shitty end of things. They are not focusing on the positive end of things. So what do they not want you to think? They don't want you to think that this game could be possibly a sleeper pick of one of the best games that could come out this year. They don't want you to think that this game has potential. They want you to think that it is bad, that it is not going to do well, it is going to flop, it is going to not succeed. And they want you to give you every excuse under the sun that you should not play this game. In reality, you should. You should give it a try. There's no reason not to. And they are releasing it on Steam. And while that is questionable because it was a PlayStation Showcase game, I can see where people are coming from. At the same time, I think it's a good thing. But that's neither here or there. Betas are one thing. Betas. They're playtests. They're not the final product. What we played in that time span wasn't the final product. And the fact that you think it was is absurd. And the so-called gaming journalists that are reporting that it is the final product, or what they think it could be the final product, and that they are going to change things, I'm going to call a spade a spade. That's idiotic. Grow up. Do better. because they sure as hell are going to prove you wrong in the long run. Like I said, it's a beta. It's a playtest. So, here's what you need to think about. Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't read and you shouldn't believe what people are reading online. Because that's how they get clicks, that's how they get the revenue, and that's how they bait people into not buying games. That's how they get people to review bomb games. And that is what kills games. Review bombing. Steam has it the worst. So much so that when it comes to reviewing games online, multiple websites wait weeks before you can even post a review. And it was the biggest thing. I believe it was Ghost of Tsushima that actually had to deal with that first. So in the long run, do I see Concord succeeding? 100%. Do I think it's going to succeed off the bat? Possibly. Only time is going to tell. But here's what they don't want you to think. And I want to leave you off with this. They don't want you to think that this game has a chance in hell. That they want you to think that this game is going to flop. That it is going to not hold a candle to anything else. When in reality, it's a fun game. It has fun mechanics. And the story behind it is, as it's a single developer, the first game, and the fact that it has good movement, that's pretty damn good. And they're not focusing on the positives. They want you to focus on the negatives. Why is that? I want you to be the judge of that. Because I do not want to give IGN and GameRant credit for something that they are going to be posting on. That's not fair. And in my opinion, that's the most idiotic thing that they could ever rate. That they can judge a game off of beta. In that case, we should be judging Call of Duty off its betas. We should be judging Overwatch off its betas. It's not fair in the slightest. So, that is it, everybody. I will be recording another episode later on. My voice is a little bit raspy. It is late at night when I'm recording these things. So, I have to talk under my breath. So, I'm sorry if you couldn't really understand me. But I will see you in the next episode of the Epileptic Gamer podcast. My name is Jacob, also known as the Epileptic Gamer. Have a great night. Bye-bye.